Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head to Numazu in Shizuoka Prefecture near Mount Fuji in Japan again. And of course, as some of you might know, that is home to Baird Beer, one of Japan's better known craft breweries. And these guys produce some really nice stuff. I did my first review with the Temple Garden Yuzu a few weeks ago, but we've got one of their first beers that they ever did today. This is the Teikoku Ipa, which literally means Imperial IPA, and it comes in at 6.5%, and this was one of the first 4 year-round beers that Baird ever produced, so it should be quite nice. There's some interesting kind of brew sugar additions to this brew, and it should be a very interesting one for us to try. Rated well into the 80s on Rate Beer when I checked it out earlier, so hopefully you guys enjoy the review. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews, then I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews from Baird Beer. I will add more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. Make sure you check that out. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. And as always, to those of you in Japan, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. I know there's many good breweries here in Japan, but of course when the language is so different, it's quite hard to actually learn about some of these, so please do get in touch. But anyway, to tell you a little bit about Baird Beer. So Baird Beer, as I mentioned to you, are from Numazu, which is in Shizuoka Prefecture near Mount Fuji in Japan. And this is a city very well known for its beautiful countryside and also for its hot springs as well. But the company is led by an American, Brian Baird, along with his wife Sayuri Baird, and it was founded back in the year 2000. But Brian had attended Johns Hopkins University, and he'd actually taken part in a Japan studies program, and he actually did some work for an American firm in Tokyo while he was there. And when he was there, he noticed that G-Biru was getting much attention in Japan, and he'd always been interested in beer. And later he went on to attend a brewing school in California, and he completed an apprenticeship at the Red Hood Brewery in Seattle in Washington State. So they chose Numazu for the brewery because of Brian's job with brewing equipment. It took him there quite often, and he says that they now enjoy the soft waters of the area. Of course, you do want soft water when it comes to brewing. But apparently much of the G-Beer in Japan wasn't great, and this was despite the fact that it was really booming at the time in the late 1990s. But Baird really wanted to introduce beers, the sort of American style beers, into Japan that were really different from what was available at that time. But after this, their beers proved really popular in Numazu, and they began to expand their brewery, and they started selling the beer in Tokyo as well, and really it's just taken off from there for them. But they now have several tap rooms. This includes the original one at the Numazu Fish Market and also one at the new brewery in Izu. They've also got pubs in Shibuya, which is called Harajuku. This one sells Japanese food. There's also one in Meguro as well, which is called Nakameguro, and this one sells beer and pizza. And they also have another one in Yokohama as well, which is Bashamichi, which is an American slow grill type restaurant. So they've got quite a few different beers as well. They've got all these restaurants that you can go and visit, and I'm sure I will go and visit one of these in Tokyo when I'm up there, and I'll see if I can take a little video around the restaurant while I'm there. So just to list the other beers you can get from Baird Beer then, in the year-round range there's the Single Take Session Ale, the Wheat King Wit, the Shuzenji Heritage Helles, Numazu Lager, Rising Sun Pale Ale, Wabi Sabi Japan Pale Ale, Red Rose Amber Ale, Angry Boy Brown Ale, Teikoku IPA, which is this guy here, the Segura Bay Imperial IPA, Shimaguni Stout, and also the Korofune Porter. And they've also got several seasonal beers as well, and the Temple Garden Yuzu beer, which you saw me review a few videos ago, was one of those seasonal beers. So there's a lot of good things available from Baird. Do go and check them out if you get the chance. But let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So just to tell you a little bit about this beer, as I mentioned to you, this one is a 6.5% IPA. It uses various hop varieties. It didn't say on the website exactly what ones they use, which was a little bit disappointing, but the malt base is roasted barley. There's some Maris Otter in there, amber and caramel malts, and there's additions of red cane Japanese Akato sugar and also some Corizato rock candy as well. And the yeast in this one is a Scottish ale yeast strain, and this beer was apparently one of the original 4 year-round beers that the Bears used to produce. There's a little bit on the website about this one as well. I'll just read that out to you. It refers to the 1905 Russo-Japanese War. It says, Teikoku means empire or imperial. India Pale Ale IPA, of course, is a beer style born from Great Britain's period of imperial domination of India in the 19th century. Japan too has an imperial past, not all of which is shameful. The label artwork for Teikoku IPA is inspired by Japan's naval triumph over Russia in the 1905 Russo-Japanese War, perhaps the first time in history that an Asian nation has vanquished an Occidental power in battle. Of course, if you know anything about the 1905 Russo-Japanese War, it was about Manchuria. Japan wanted Manchuria, Russia wanted it for another kind of non-freezing port, and they fought over that. The Russian fleet sailed halfway around the world, and then the Japanese sunk them in something crazy like 45 minutes. It was a really kind of crazy battle that went on there, but a very, very interesting little bit of history there. I need to read up a little bit more on that. But yeah, I'll let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. I'll just to take the condensation of it. There you can see the nice boats and things. In this one, you can see the sort of, it actually looks like a sword and a knight actually. It's a kind of unusual artwork, but it looks really quite nice. You can see the Baird beers always have some really cool artwork on them. You can see on the back there's the writing, but you can see there is a lot of condensation of this beer. Quite hot outside, of course, and there is the typical Baird Beer crown on this one. It looks really, really nice. It says Teikoku IPA, intricately intertwined hop and malt character, so it should be really nice. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get it into the glass and we'll have a taste of it. So let me get this out. Ugh. If I can get the beer to open. It doesn't want to open. There we are. Takes a little while sometimes, so maybe I'll need to have a wee look at this bottle opener I've got, because it isn't quite the best one. But yeah, as you can see, pours a nice dark amber colour, this one, which is what you expect. I'm not sure whether to expect more of an American IPA or an English IPA from this one. Maybe it's going to be somewhere in the middle of these two styles. But as you can see, this beer has poured a really nice kind of coppery brown colour actually. There's a solid finger of a slightly beigey, creamy coloured head on this one. It looks really nice. There's a lot of carbonation sticking to the glass there. You can see that as it's come out, but it looks very, very nice. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see there is a degree of transparency to it, but overall it is quite dark and quite hazy. I think it's fair to say it's quite coppery in colour. There's some little bits of sediment just floating around in this one, but it looks very, very nice. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma and see how we get on here. Now, on first note, without sugaring the beer up, of course, there's a nice sort of caramelly, slightly spicy, sugary thing going on. It does smell quite brown sugary and quite toasty in that regard. It's almost kind of biscuity. So it's a big biscuity malt base in this one. There's a little bit of bread underneath, you can pick that up. And there's almost a little bit of spice to some of these brown sugars in this beer. It really does smell quite interesting. But yeah, brown sugar, a little bit toasted, some caramel, some biscuity grains in there, a bit of thicker bready character as well, like I said. But there's a definite kind of nutty or slightly spicy thing going on in this one, which is quite interesting. Yeah, definitely heavier on the aroma side of things. It's definitely more a malt forward beer, I would say. Yeah, I would stick with that. Definitely a malt forward beer, this one. Yeah, really interesting malt characters. It's just take a little bit of time and enjoy the nose on this one before you actually get it out and have a go for yourself. There's a little bit of hoppy character in there as well, but it's definitely quite mild actually. You can get a little bit of an orangey fruit in there, but it really, to me, it smells kind of like an English bitter, to be honest with you. It does smell a little bit like one of these English ESBs. There's a little bit of orangey fruit coming out, maybe some kind of grassy sort of floral character in this beer as well, and some earthy hop, a little bit of orange earthy character and a little bit of floral aromas as well. But it smells very interesting, so without further ado then, let's get stuck into this guy then. This is the Teikoku IPA from Baird Brewing Company in Numazu in Japan. Kanpai. Ooh. Now that's interesting. Definitely more of a malt forward beer this. It really does remind me a little bit of an English bitter rather than an IPA. So this beer obviously is leaning a bit more towards the English side of the IPA style. And of course, when they're talking about the Empire, the British Empire and things, these beers were the ones that were brought over from England to India and places like that. They used to make them stronger so that they would last the journey, and they did tend to be a bit more malty. It did say on the website actually that there's two purposes behind adding brew sugar to the brewing process. One of them is to increase the alcohol content of the beer without affecting the body too much, and the second one is to add a bit of kind of natural carbonation to the brew process. And they said that in this beer they wanted to do both of those things. So they wanted the beer to be a little bit higher in alcohol, but also to have a bit of a lighter body and to have a good bit of carbonation as well, and you can definitely get that in the feel of this beer. But yeah, this is quite interesting. This is definitely more, for me, rather than being an IPA, this one really leans a bit more towards being an English bitter, to be honest, but it's quite a well done English bitter at that. But yeah, it's an interesting beer. Definitely for me, I would now, if I was tasting this blind, I would say it's an English bitter. For me, it doesn't even really fit what you'd expect from an English IPA, to be honest. The malt base on this is very bready, it's very grainy, very biscuity and stuff. For me, this is an English bitter. It really does fit more into that category for me. We can talk about styles all day, but the main point, of course, is whether or not the beer's good, and this is good. Normally, I'm not a big fan of the English bitter styles, actually. I more like the milds and stouts when it comes to English beer. But this is a fairly nice English style bitter. So yeah, in the middle of your palate in this one, you've got this big bready blanket that goes right across the middle of your tongue there. It just blankets the palate. Then there's some biscuity, grainy character. There is a little bit of dryness with that goes into the aftertaste, and there's some richer kind of biscuity syrup character to this one. A little bit of caramel, I think it's fair to say, and there's almost a little bit of a kind of nutty or slightly woody flavour mixing in with that as well. There's almost a little bit of that kind of it's a little bit of spice, actually. It's almost a little bit spicy. It's interesting. It has that typical kind of bready, grainy, slightly spicy malt base that you expect of an English bitter. And for me, that's the roasted barley. They said they added roasted barley to this one, and you can definitely pick that up. Perhaps some of the slightly spicy character comes from the Akato and the Corizato that they added to this beer as well, the two different types of sugar. And it's you can definitely pick up just that kind of spicy, sugary character in this one, that almost kind of rock candy thing going on. It's really interesting. The flavours in this beer do blend together quite well. There's a little bit of almost ready fruity ester in this one, just behind the front curve of the palate. You can really pick that up, but when it comes to the actual hops themselves, in the back corners of the palate, it's a little bit earthy. There's definitely that kind of earthy dryness there, and as you come further forward it becomes a little bit more herbal and sort of vegetal, but there's a bit of grassiness for me around the front curve of the palate. As I say, for an IPA, this isn't exactly what I would expect, but if you think of this beer as an English bitter, it hits the spot exactly for me. But the main point is that this is a good beer, and it certainly is that. Yeah, I mean, it's quite easy to drink. At this kind of temperature as well, the mouthfeel is good. It's a little bit thicker, and it does, as I've had this beer out maybe about 5-10 minutes since I've been filming the review, you can feel the mouthfeel just getting that little bit thicker, and I would say maybe give it about 10 minutes out of the fridge and you've got just a nice mouthfeel with this one. It works very, very well. But there's some nutty in the aftertaste. It definitely, that breadiness, the cereal flavours, the biscuitiness, a bit of the caramel sweetness, and those other sort of rock candy flavours in this one are lingering there, and some of the earthiness from the hop and a little bit of the herbal character too. Overall, the flavour blend in this is very, very nice. In terms of the mouthfeel, definitely mid-bodied. The carbonation is soft. There's a little bit of an oily character. There's a good bit of dryness in this one, mainly from the malts actually, but also a little bit from the hops. There's a bit of sweetness when the beer is actually going down. And there's a little bit of fruity character too. As I said, it's more of a kind of candied red fruit ester. It reminds me of the little heart sweets that you get in Haribo Star Mix. It reminds me a little bit of that. But there's not really a big hoppy, oily character to this one. This one certainly wasn't what I was expecting when I tried it. It really does remind me a little bit more of an English-style bitter. But it's the main point is it's a really nice beer. It's a kind of it's a little bit of a. It does have a bit of an English IPA character to it, but not quite. Really, for me, I would say this leans more towards being an ESB English bitter sort of thing. But it's a good beer, and that's the main point of the review. So yeah, as always, if you have tried this beer yourself, do let me know your own thoughts on it in the comment section below. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are drinking the beers along with me. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual stuff. Do make sure you check out my social media too. Let me know what your favourite beers from Baird Beer are, and if you haven't tried some of their stuff before, do make sure you do. One of the better known craft breweries from here in Japan. So this was the Teikoku Ipa from Baird Beer in Numazu in Shizuoka, Japan. Kanpai just now, and I will catch you soon with some more Japanese beer reviews. Until the next time, slanja just now.